Hi everyone, welcome to a massive episode of the Altcoin Bible. Again, we've had another massive week in crypto. It is never, ever, ever, ever boring. We're looking at 28,000, potentially looking to blast higher. And then we had a bit of a technical correction, as well as it linked almost beautifully with a bit of macro news around rising yields and some issues in traditional finance. But probably more impactful was the Binance issues around the CFTC looking to sue Binance and just essentially turn the screws on that exchange, and CZ himself potentially bringing in criminal charges. We remember Binance is the largest exchange by volume on the planet. It's the most used retail exchange as well. So that creates some shockwaves in the markets, and there was a sell-off naturally. So everything kind of lined up for that pullback. We haven't seen it come back to the 200-week moving average of around 25,600, but we have had a decent pullback. A lot of altcoins really got flushed again, pulled right back. And we saw a lot of opportunities develop for investors that are paying attention at key support levels and whatnot. And now we're having a bit of a bounce again higher, not from those previous levels, but from this drawdown, we're now seeing a bit of that move back to some previous levels that we saw. So very, very interesting times. I'm going to start with Ethereum. So you've been watching these episodes a lot, and every now and then I'll add some commentary like I've done, but I also want to paint, a broader picture on strategy and where we're looking, which maybe is not the reason you're watching these videos. I'm going to tell you anyway. When we're in this environment of low liquidity, risks abound, over our heads with traditional finance and just generally in markets, we want to stick to assets that have a lower risk profile. So when I'm doing the cherry ripes and wonder watches, that's always in the back of my mind. I just don't want to give you random crypto tokens with low market caps that might be looking okay, but at any moment, because of the low liquidity environment, they could just have the rug pulled from underneath them and fall and be very, very volatile. You lose 50% in a move type situation. So this is where I'm sitting with this right now. And my cherry ripe for this week is Ethereum, based on that criteria, but also based on it is the second largest crypto by market cap out there. It's got essentially, it's very well trusted in institutional circles and large investment circles. And it has been lagging for a long time. It's just been grinding in this long range and just hasn't really broken out yet. It's now threatening to do so, which is a very interesting position. So Bitcoin moved, like I said, up to that 28,000 level and broke through that 200-week moving average as well. Now, historically, whenever crypto is in a more positive uptrend where the bulls are really in charge, Bitcoin runs first. And then when it sort of stops, runs into resistance like it did in 28,000, it comes back, pulls back, goes sideways, consolidates. That's when altcoins really run. The liquidity moves from Bitcoin, Ethereum, then to large caps, mid caps, etc. So that's really, really important to remember. Now, are we seeing Ethereum start to gain? It has been just walloped recently in terms of Bitcoin, Ethereum strength. If you look at the BTC ETH chart, you'll see that Bitcoin's been running, Ethereum's just been dropping. That tends to be reflexive. It tends to move back to a more mean state. So are we about to see that? I think we might be. So Ethereum looks really, really nice here. Now, my criteria for Ethereum has long been, as it's been, a one to watch for a very long time here, is that 1720 level. And you see, this looks very similar to what Bitcoin has actually done recently in terms of price action. See that sort of inverse head and shoulders, that massive pullback, and then the move higher, which is what I think Bitcoin does momentarily in the next, week or so. But we look at Ethereum here, this perfectly looks like that, really flush down to some lower levels, grab some liquidity, hit some moving averages, climb all the way back up, actually climb above this previously insanely strong resistance level, and is now firming as support. I think this looks absolutely terrific. And you see the RSI just sort of cooled off back to the mean sort of area around 50. It shows strength and breaks through there, and it breaks up through here. She's going to, $2,000, plus. It's probably going to make new yearly highs. In fact, that's not that hard because it already is on the cusp of that. But probably new multi-year high, probably, a high within the previous year and a bit. So that is really consequential. And when Ethereum starts to go, then a lot of other things will go as well. So Ethereum looks really, really interesting here. If you're interested in, at areas that I'm interested in looking at buying Ethereum, it would be, if I just get this one here, rectangle, in a box here. This is the illustration that I want to give everyone here, that once you're above a key horizontal level like this one is, you really want to see it come back down to that support. So this box here is that area of opportunity. You can also look to play sort of the breakout of, let's say this, it looks like a reasonably obvious flag to me that it's trying to just break up. You know, you get interested above this as well, but ideally as a buyer, you want to be buying on these pullbacks towards this horizontal support. So that's where I get really interested in buying. Selling, and you know, this as well, just keep in mind, this could break down. If it loses this horizontal, it can easily come back down to these support levels here, where you probably want some, you know, I'd be interested in looking at those levels in terms of buying, because Ethereum's just shown so much relative strength over this period. It hasn't had that double low that Bitcoin did. It was Luna and then FTX. Ethereum didn't actually make that lower low as FTX. It just held really, really strong. So that is a pretty big ticket amount. I think Ethereum has a massive run at some point. It's just when it does. Next major support level is probably here. Sorry, resistance level is probably here. So, and how I found that, just so you can see, the next real big cluster of volume is here. So around that 2300 level. And on the left-hand side, you can see it's been the floor for all this price action in the bear market that was just trending down. So wick, break. So that very clearly to me is where you'd be looking pretty seriously about taking profits off the table. Just get my brush. So you absolutely see something like that, or you know, whatever in that area. But you know, I think 2000 as well is a very good place to take some risk off the table, just because it's a psychological level. But it's likely going to go a little bit higher and really reach into these sort of areas. Then you can pull out the Fibonacci extension and just see where it might go after that, maybe 3500. Looking at that, but just broadly, this looks really positive for the near and short term. So yeah, really happy as that as my cherry ripe. It's a very obvious one for me, so looks really, really strong. Now, another one that I would have really put cherry ripe as well, in my opinion, is Litecoin. You know, it's not as advanced as Ethereum in my eyes, because Ethereum's way up here, let's say, coming back down to that previous support. It's held and it looks like it's going to break up. Whereas Litecoin kind of did the opposite. It was unfortunately in that kind of phase. You can see the breakup sort of coming back to retest that resistance flip support, but then Binance happened, and then we all just had this big crash through. So I think Litecoin has tremendous ability to rally back to these highs and go much higher, as well as you've got the narrative in the background of the Litecoin halving that hits this year in August. So historically, the year before the Bitcoin halving, Litecoin's had its halving. It's always run really, really hard in that year. So this is more of a midterm play, but even in the short term, you just see the relative strength of Litecoin rolling up this line. You see point, 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 point. So making those higher lows each time, and really eventually making those higher highs. So this whole area here has been super, super positive for Litecoin. I'd expect it to continue going forward with this, potentially creating more of a parabola. So it would just sort of start to go almost quite steep. And that's when you really look to watch the momentums and see that everything is maybe looking to cool off. But what I really like about Litecoin too, in terms of a buyer's sense, if you saw this potential breakdown of support, you'd have these buy levels set in these areas. And why was this so strong? Well, the support was there. It just showed at 86 because of this huge horizontal volume area. But also, this is on the 4-hour, by the way, but this is the 200 4-hour moving average. So here you can see support was heavily supported, not only with volume, not only with the horizontal, but also a 200 moving average on the 4-hour, which is just phenomenal. And if we just roll up the Fibonacci retracement in terms of buy areas, the 0.5, that's exactly where it hit. Didn't get down to 0.618. That might have been a little bit too greedy to expect to go down there with so much relative strength, but it hit this area and looks to be quite strong out of this. So look, this is still a good area, in my opinion, to get Litecoin. Then you want to have a look. Right now, it's running up against resistance, so you can't get too bullish on it yet, to break above 94 or whatever it is. But right now, again, it's running into this. If it gets above this, then yeah, that's above 90. And I think you can get really excited that Litecoin's just going to start to run higher and move into a new phase there. Because this is just so important up here that it breaks. And it's going to be very easy to tell because it just has to break this level. And then it's in that 91, 92 region. It's back into this chop, this volume. Gets above that 94 area and she's off to the races. So sell points would be... look, probably you want to front run 100. 99 is probably a good area. 98 point something. These big whole numbers, that a lot of orders are stacked in those areas. So you kind of want to front run that, especially in these low liquidity environments. Litecoin has a bit more liquidity than most, which is great. We go out a little bit further. I think 120 was the next major area. Let's have a look. So ideally, when you see these market structures develop, Litecoin's coming back down to test these areas, you want to have these mapped out, these support zones, you want to have them mapped out. If you're an interested investor and you're looking to scale in, those are the areas you want to look at. And some things we've been finding is psychologically, it's easy when price is up here to plot where these support zones are and, think I'm going to buy here, here, and here. But when these actions actually, or when the price actually starts really ripping to the downside, you do get a little bit nervous. And that's what I find a lot of people psychologically find is it's hitting the zones that they want. Their alerts are firing off. Maybe they haven't actually put an order in, but the alert was supposed to tell them to do so. They see the price, they see the alert, and they're like, I might wait for a little bit lower. And that's when you can really start to make some mistakes. But broadly, sell points, I think probably rolling up here. I could bring up some more moving averages as well, but I think this here looks like a pretty meaty area. This breakdown hinge about 114. That's probably another area. See this floor over here, and just generally a lot of these volumes. So 133 is probably the extent of maybe a move that's coming from here. That's just me. Those could be your sell levels. Also, still look for that lower entry. Because Litecoin hasn't proven anything just yet, but to me, it just looks really strong. On the RSI, it's kind of bottomed there as well. It's starting to be reflexive. Stock RSI looks really nice. The momentum looks good. And what is it resting on here on the 4 hour? That's the 50 on the 4 hour as well. This blue line here, it's broken back above, about to retest, held at 200. To me, it looks pretty rosy. So that's my one to watch, but reasonably confident on that one. All right, now for my danger zone, it's Illuvium this week. It's been a very popular crypto over the last few months because of some fundamental action it had, but it very much cooled off in this top area. I know I was trading it up in this area, expecting more of a higher move. It just didn't really eventuate, and it kind of had the buy the rumor, sell the news event. So that was interesting in itself because it was in this triangle up here, broke down, found major support. Here, got a big bounce up, almost like a dead cat into this area, made a double peak. We can see that the RSI was trailing off, so bull momentum was actually decreasing while, let me just show you guys as well. Bull momentum was decreasing, or buying momentum was decreasing while price was making a higher high, which is a massive flag. That's a bearish divergence. And whenever you see that really on 4 hour, daily, weekly, at some point, things are going to roll over in most instances. So that's a bit of a tip there for you guys. But here's why I don't like the look of Illuvium right now. It could invalidate this thesis if it gets above this horizontal line. But for now, this just looks like a bearish breakout to the downside and a bearish retest on the underside. So if you were to flip this chart and this was a breakout to the upside, you'd be like this, like Ethereum, for example, it's broken up out of this horizontal and it's coming back to retest as support before it makes a larger move to the downside. This is kind of a lot of the altcoins were following the bear market, like Cardano and Solana and others. They did this exact same move before they made the next low. So just be careful here. If it breaks up, there, bounce, done, you've got an inverse head and shoulders, look great, and then it'll come back up to 76. But right now, if it's just butting heads underneath this, you want to wait for a few more closes. And I mean, the RSI looks okay, that it might actually reload, but the proof is in the pudding. And until it gets above that 58 level, I'm bearish on Illuvium. And if we just maybe zoom out to see where it could go, okay, that's really obvious. So 49, let's say 50 might be front run, or maybe see this little cluster of candles over here. Yeah, well, 50, 80 is absolutely nothing. So maybe it gets to 51. So that's how you kind of want to look at charts as well. It's very obvious that this level is really, really strong, 50. So orders naturally will be stacked just above it. Also, people will get a bit smart and try and do what I just did and just have a look where the last major concentration of candles are, where it could go. So that's because there's a big oxygen gap here. Generally, when it falls underneath these major levels, it can just run all the way down to here. So 51 is probably a really interesting spot for Illuvium. I mean, it's 57 now, so it's really not that much of a fall. Have some orders, I'd be very interested down there. In terms of upside, get back above that horizontal. Then you can look at 66, probably 72, and then you can talk about things from there. But clearly my danger zone this week. All right, guys, hope you have enjoyed this altcoin Bible. Have a great day. We'll catch you again for our next episode. Bye.